72, addressed to the Honorable Prime Minister.
All right. I'm still learning, as you can see. It seems that you will not reply now because it is the Prime Minister's time. So the Prime Minister will answer to the second question. So your second question, Mr. Babaji.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B573.
Madam Speaker, we'll go to part A of the question. I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that since January 2025 to the 19th of June of this year, 14 cases of assault at 11 different public beaches have been reported at 10 different police stations. I'm tabling the details thereof. In regard to part B of the question, I'm further informed that among the 14 cases reported, 4 occurred during weekends at Flic-en-Flac, Tombeau Bay, Saint-Félix and Bétucap public beaches, and 2 cases during public holidays at Montchoisy and Tombeau Bay, respectively. In 2 cases, 9 suspects were arrested and provisionally charged for the offence of assault with premeditation. Inquiries in all the 14 cases are ongoing.
One.
Yes?
Will the Honorable Prime Minister consider of getting some SMF and SSUs at the public beach on weekends due to the number of assaults being occurred and short number of policemen?
Yes, in fact, this is being done during night time, especially. Both police presence, together with SMF, SSU, and local police conduct roadblocks, vehicle checkpoints, and targeted alcohol and drug operations during those along the coastal roads.
Thank you. Yes, one more.
Will the Honorable Prime Minister consider of having some traffic management officers on the Flic-en-Flac road, especially as we got 4 or 5 hotels having delays during weekends, especially with the huge number of traffics coming from Flic-en-Flac to Palma, direction to the airport?
That is a different question, doesn't pertain to the question, but yes, this is being done also.
All right. Is that all right now for Mrs. The Honourable Minister en dernier? At the end, okay. Quelle logique, franchement. Okay, so now, Mr. Babaji, your PQ to ministers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. B574.
Madam Speaker, I am informed by the NLTA that out of the existing fleet of 11,153 contract car licenses, to date, 7,781, representing 70%, have been granted during the last 10 years. Prior to 2014, we only had 3,372 contract cars licensed, which itself reflects the strict and cautious approach to the issue of such licenses. From information gathered from the NLTA, there is no indication that a survey was conducted as regards to the demand and real need for such services on the market. As regards Part B of the question, I am made to understand by the NLTA that it does not have any record of the licenses issued as to who have recommended the contract car applications, and hence no information is currently readily available as to the number of contract car licenses issued for operations in hotel and tour operators. Extracting this information from over 11,000 files may be time-consuming at this stage. However, I wish to reassure the House that I have vehemently condemned this situation, and I have already instructed the NLTA to henceforth ensure proper record keeping whilst favouring the adoption of digitalization prospects thereto, so as to enable information on the recommendations of such applications to be obtained at one click. Coming to Part B of the question, Madam Speaker, I am tabling information relating to the procedures. In the interest of time, Madam Speaker, with regards to Part C of the question, the NLTA has confirmed that all beneficiaries did satisfy all the eligibility criteria, that they produce all the required documents when they were assessed by the then licensing board. I am also informed that as from 26 July 2024, the criteria for submission of applications for contract cars were significantly eased, in spite of the fact that the NLTA was already receiving a large number of applications monthly. In that context, the supporting documents were acceptable, even from greenhouses as compared to hotels and tour operators previously. New applications did not require the submission of documents on parking facilities. No bank statement was required to prove financial capacity. No inquiry was carried out by the NLTA Inspectorate to assess the need for the applied licenses. I am made to understand that certificates of characters had to be produced only at implementation stage when application has already been approved, when this crucial document was previously required prior to the application being considered by the licensing board. Moreover, during the same period, these applications were decided upon by the officer in charge, then officer in charge of the NLTA, although the licensing board was still operational. The NLTA Act clearly stipulates that this is the power of the licensing board to determine application for contract car licenses. Without any authority, this power was exercised by the then officer in charge. Accordingly, 138 car licenses were granted during that same period.
All right. Yes, Mr. Duval.
Yes, thank you. May I ask the Minister, with regards to the lack of availability on the market of cars duly licensed as tour operators, as having the required license, is the Minister proposing to now reopen applications and the supply of these licenses? Because, as the Minister may know, insurances and also tour operators are complaining that they are not finding cars to rent that are duly licensed. And as you also may know, there is a growing black market for cars that are being rented and which do not afford the limitations of liability, etc.
Yes.
Thank you. Applications were received up until about 3 weeks ago, when there was a deadline. And I am given to understand that there are about 1,500 applications, which the licensing board will start hearing very soon.
Okay. Next question, Mr. Babaji.
B575.
Madame la Présidente, je suis informé par le Central Electricity Board que de janvier 2015 à ce jour, 1153 employés ont été recrutés au sein de l'institution dans divers grands grades techniques et administratifs. Parmi ceux-ci, 131 anciens employés du CEB Green Energy Company Limited et de CEB Facilities Company Limited ont été intégrés respectivement en 2021 et 2023. Sur l'ensemble de ces recrutements, 427 ont été effectués à la suite d'un appel à candidature dans la presse. Toutefois, il est noté que 595 recrutements ont eu lieu sans aucune forme de transparence, dans une opacité totale. À ce jour, l'effectif du CEB est passé de 1884 en 2015 à 2312 en 2025, ce qui traduit une augmentation substantielle du personnel au cours des 10 dernières années.
Yes.
Will the Minister inform the House, Madam Speaker, if there will be an inquiry on the transparency of the recruitment? The recruitment you just said has not been done in transparency.
Madame la Présidente, laissez-moi préciser qu'au-delà de cette hausse et de l'effectif, il est impératif de souligner que ces 10 dernières années, sous les mandats successifs des anciens ministres, des pratiques de recrutement pour le moins douteuses ont été observées. Le plus préoccupant, c'est bien que les honorables membres ici et vous, Madame la Présidente, vous prenez connaissance de cela, des recrutements ont été effectués pour des postes de techniciens qui demandent obligatoirement que vous ayez un NTC3. C'est un brevet technique obligatoire pour travailler au CEB. Donc, des recrutements ont été effectués, malheureusement, des recrutements ont été effectués pour des postes de techniciens sans que les candidats ne disposent du NTC3, ce qui est pourtant une qualification essentielle pour exercer cette fonction. Il est important de rappeler que le secteur de l'électricité est un domaine hautement technique, où la sécurité des employés eux-mêmes est en jeu. Une erreur, une seule négligence peut avoir des conséquences dramatiques. Madame la Présidente, cela témoigne d'un grave, pour répondre à la question de l'honorable membre, dysfonctionnement dans le processus de recrutement et de gestion des ressources humaines au sein du CEB. Une telle approche, où la compétence est exigée après coup, est non seulement contraire aux pratiques élémentaires de bonne gestion, mais aussi dangereuse. Le board du CEB, l'actuel board du CEB, a pris la décision depuis quelque temps d'offrir une dernière opportunité à 23 techniciens recrutés 7 ans de cela, qui sont concernés afin qu'ils puissent régulariser leur situation en obtenant un NTC3. Ce qui est particulièrement grave, Madame la Présidente, que sous la responsabilité de l'ancien ministre, suivez mon regard, certains recrutements ont été faits avant même que les candidats n'aient acquis cette certification de base, NTC3, ce qui n'est qu'après leur recrutement qu'il leur a été demandé d'aller suivre une formation requise pour obtenir ce NTC3.
Yes, Mr. Babaji, your first question.
B572.
That's it. Madame la Ministre.
Madam Speaker, with your permission, I shall reply to PQ B572 addressed to the Honorable Prime Minister. With regard to Part A of the question, I am informed that no external grants were received from either India or Saudi Arabia for the implementation of the Heritage City project. I wish to inform the House that from information available at the level of my ministry, on 9 October 2015, the previous government decided that the then Ministry of Financial Services and Good Governance would be responsible for the development of the Heritage City project on a plot of land of 336 arpents situated opposite Ibn Cyprus City on the left of Bagatelle Dam. On 18 December 2015, the then government approved the setting up of the Heritage City Company Limited, a wholly state-owned company for the implementation of the Heritage City with a time frame of 3 years as from 2016. With regard to Part B of the question, Madam Speaker, I am informed that a high-powered committee met on 23rd February 2016 under the chairmanship of the then Secretary to Cabinet and Head of Civil Service, and comprising the then Financial Secretary and Solicitor General, to consider a due diligence report on the procurement of professional services of STRI, that's the name of a consultancy company, for an amount not exceeding $4.34 million. As per the report of the high-powered committee, the Heritage City project was to be implemented under a government-to-government arrangement between the government of the Republic of Mauritius and the government of United Arab Emirates. However, as per the files records at my ministry, there is no documentary evidence of any proper government-to-government agreed in this regard. We found a letter that has been signed by the chairman of PCFC Real Estate Development FZE and the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Financial Services, Good Governance and Institutional Reform, which talks about putting this in place, and it is already proposing to appoint STRI. So this company, this agreement is to appoint Street Consulting, represented by Mr. Said Amir Sahid, to assist the government of Mauritius in respect of master planning, design, preparation, and evaluation of bids. We could not find, Madam Speaker, any proper government-to-government agreement between the two countries. And following the decision, so remember the dates, the meeting of the high-powered committee happened on 23rd February 2016. Following the decisions of the high-powered committee, the then government approved on the 2nd of March, so a few days later, the procurement of professional services of Street Consulting with the Heritage City Company Limited for an amount not exceeding 4.34 million for master planning and engineering design and government officers schematic design. An agreement, so a contract was signed between Heritage City Company Limited and Street Contracting on 17 April 2016. On 16 March 2016, an amount of 55 million was transferred from the Accountant General to the State Bank of Mauritius in favor of Heritage City Company Limited for implementation of the project. And from records available at my ministry, the total funds disbursed to Street Consulting Limited through direct debit of SBM account of Heritage City was $102,795 rupees, equivalent to 39,716,981, detailed as follows. So 15 April, an amount of USD 234,795, equivalent to 8,382,181. And on 1st June 2016, an amount of 868,000 US dollars, equivalent to 31,334,800 rupees. These funds represented 20% of the mobilization and information gathering fees, including additional revision of the concept master plan for Heritage City and Travel Affair. So in fact, Madam Speaker, 39.7 million rupees spent without any RFP, without any proper procurement procedure, and nothing done. It was just the mobilization fee. So nothing came out of it. And I was doing some simple calculation. 39.7 million down the drain. You know, a lot of, every week after week, we throw a lot of millions of scandals. But when you relate that, for example, our colleague was just talking about electricity. That would pay for 80,000 vulnerable households on social register if they 500 rupees for an electricity bill. 39.7 million, 40 million nearly, would pay 2,000 underprivileged families with water tanks and pumps so they could get uninterrupted water supply, as Water 24/7 was but a forever dream. So it was a lot of money wasted by the Ministry of Good Governance, but no good governance, no procedure, no. Madam Speaker, members of the House may be informed that the Heritage City Company Limited has already been wound up since 29 April 2020, and that is marked as defunct as per the records of the Register of Companies. And it is to be noted that the remaining amount on the bank balance of the Heritage City to the tune of 123,214 rupees was returned to the Accountant General on 28 January 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Yes?
Yes, Madam the Minister, will you be able to inform the House who was responsible for that ministry and whether there will be a proper inquiry being carried out in regards to those?
Oui, oui, bien sûr.
That was Minister Oshibade.
Former Minister.
Will there be any proper inquiry being carried out in regards to this?
Yes, an inquiry will be carried out, and I must add that, it's a disgrace that people like that are today down protesting on the street when they have squandered money like this.
All right, so we've finished with questions.
Motion.
Motion, yes. Honourable Prime Minister.
Motion first, okay. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2, Standing Order 10.
Thank you. The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Statements by Ministers, non-public bills, first reading.
Madam
Yes.
Speaker, I beg to move that the Gambling Regulatory Amendment Bill number 15 of 2025 be read the first time.
Motion is seconded. Yes.
Public bill, second reading.
Yes. Do you think it's a good thing to start? All right. Honourable Junior Minister, Mr. Damani.
Madam Speaker, fellow citizens, I stand before you today engulfed in a turmoil of emotions just like you. Experts believe that Mauritians will not and could not get paid pensions in the near future. As a patriot in a patriotic government, we cannot allow this to happen. On the one hand, I have my mother's brother who turned 59 a couple weeks ago. I know an elderly lady who has been working for 40 years. She's more than family, and she turns 60 in December. They're both deeply affected. On the other hand, I'm the Junior Minister of Finance. And day in and day out, I see the precarious state of the public finances. As a caring and responsible government, we have and will always be sensitive to the public's deeply rooted sentiments. The mind, the rational, say yes to the reforms, yet the inner self has a sense of unpreparedness. Madam Speaker, this battlefield of emotions has triggered deep reflections in me and compelled me in finding meaning in the noise. There is a reason why we do things. The why is innate. It's existential in our DNA, in our core, in our soul. The why directs how we do what we do. The speakers of this House have very diligently canvassed the how and the what of this budget. And in the time allocated to me, I will try to focus on the why of our budget. The why is protect generations. The how is bridge to the future and budget responsibility. The what, pension reforms and structural reforms. But before I proceed with our why, I would like, Madam Speaker, let's pause for a minute. Let's think. Let's try to decipher the why of the previous government and their budget ideologies so that we get a proper understanding of our budget. First, the State of the Economy document prepared by the civil servants under the supervision of the Financial Secretary shattered the money illusion into brutal reality. There was a lot of variance in the debt, the budget deficits, in the accounting of GBC reserves into primary surplus, into mixing gross international reserves with net international reserves. Let's go back to the why of the MSM. Question: were the generous handouts of the MSM driven by social concern, or were they politically calculated to consolidate power? Was there a deliberate method behind the populist measures, a hidden agenda to sedate public opinion, to create dependence, to manipulate the masses? Mauritians are not naive. We know there's no such thing as a free lunch. A household that spends beyond its means goes into debt. So does a nation. 180 billions of rupees printed, distributed, vanished. 520,000 of debt per head. At the stroke of a pen, the MSM eliminated the NPF and defrauded the acquired rights of the workers. They taxed the workers through the CSG tax and left a deficit of 9.8 billion rupees. The MSM risked the very existence of pensions whose sustainability was already questioned by the IMF and World Bank in 2015 and 2021, and a working committee of the Ministry of Social Security in 2018. They didn't care about our people. They could care less about a downgrade from BAA1 to BAA2 to BAA3 during their mandate, as they didn't care about Mauritius being put into a grey list. So, Madam Speaker and friends, think deeper. Which organization hands out money and instills fear to build a network of control and dependency? Can we think? I would not like to use the word because it is not strong enough. The word is mafia. Did the MSM dare to run Mauritius on mafia-style control? Did the MSM try to shape our paradise island into the juggernaut-owned enterprise? If you think this is the why of the MSM, do not ever let those political bandits basking under the sun on the beaches of Maldives get their hands on public money again. Now, Madam Speaker, let me focus on our why. As we reimagine our future, we must ask, are we crafting a vision for the challenges ahead, or are we just keeping a broken system alive? Former French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin, in his piece, Le pouvoir de dire non, wrote that we are not facing a temporary crisis, but une bascule d'époque, a tipping point in history. He warns that our planet's finite resources cannot support infinite economic growth. This budget does not just accommodate the transition, it accelerates it with decarbonized transport and energy, investment in a circular economy, real focus on food and water security. This budget funds education, reforms health, supports local food sovereignty, rewards care and commitment. This budget invests in teachers, caregivers, creatives, and citizens. This budget says no to unsustainable consumption. This budget says yes to economic justice, so that all Mauritians, especially our youth, feel included. As Vilper writes, la vie devient marchandise, vidée de son mystère. Life becomes a commodity, stripped of its mystery. Let's not allow our policies to become the same. We must give our children reasons to stay and our elders reasons to trust. Let this Parliament restore that presence. Let us lift our country morally as well as materially. Madam Speaker, let me now get to the how. This government is doing just that by building a bridge to the future through a multi-annual financial framework with three components. One, a 3-year macroeconomic financial consolidation plan. 2, a social compassion pact. And 3, a productive growth roadmap. Madam Speaker, let me begin with the 3-year fiscal consolidation plan that has 5 enablers. First, reduce debt from 90% to 80%. Second, reform tax architecture for taxation equity. I'd like to ask a question to the House. Do you know, over the past 10 years, what has been the effective taxation rates of some industry sectors, such as hotels, tourism, banking, insurance? You may be shocked. It begins at 5%, because in economy they introduced so many taxation allowances that was their effective taxation rate. And on the other hand, the common public was paying income tax, VAT, CSG tax, devaluation tax, inflation tax. It is this equity that we have tried to bring through fair share contributions. Third, we need to find efficiencies of at least 5 billion rupees over the next 3 years in public bodies. Fourth, this budget has made a provision of 15 billion to manage ESGs, environment, social, and governance risks. On the social front, we have made provision for adequate funding of the institutions for fighting drugs. This is a welcome change for families that suffered for far too long, with the previous government turning a blind eye to their misery. This budget has taken major steps towards good governance. Fifth, this budget has made provision to manage macro-financial risk due to internal and external shocks. As we all know, we live in an unpredictable world with country wars, tariff wars, and trade wars. We need to securitize our supply chains and expand to new markets. This budget allocates funding to institutions to make Mauritius a safe and competitive haven. Madam Speaker, we chose not to increase VAT rates because our fiscal consolidation plan is rooted in social justice. We will return to a lighter tax policy in 2 to 3 years. Madam Speaker, allow me to delve into the second pillar of our multi-annual financial framework, social compassion, with the provisioning of 428 billion of rupees over 3 years on education, health, housing, and social security. Our workers-centric values of the Labour Party, MMM, REA, and Nouveau Démocrate ensure that the financial sustainability and equity of our welfare state for next generations are protected. As such, pension reforms are necessary to ensure multi-generational pension sustainability. A commission of experts is called upon to propose a financially viable and ring-fenced NPF 2.0. Madam Speaker, the budget has made provision for a number of social pacts, but in the interest of time, I'll move to the third pillar of the multi-annual financial framework, growth, based on 6 multipliers. 1, structural economic reforms. For example, ease of doing business, external competitiveness, and labor market reforms. 2, port, airport, digital, financial, and diplomatic connectivity as force multipliers. 3, the resilience of existing contributing sectors, for example, construction, financial services, and tourism. 4, the recovery of stagnating sectors, for example, local production. 5, innovative Mauritius for new economic pillars such as digital, AI, green and blue industrialization, and agri-resilience. 6, the Future Fund as an investment catalyst. Madam Speaker, all these opportunities, we are bringing them to Mauritius so that our children stay in Mauritius and do not emigrate outside. And we are confident that the multi-annual financial framework will yield the macro financial results in the next 2 to 3 years. Let us return to the why as I prepare to conclude. Allow me to share a vision. Picture a less young version of me walking along the Peribere beach in 2050. And I see multi-generations of Mauritius with smiles in their face, children, the youth, women, parents, grandparents. I look at them, I smile and perhaps think, if only they knew how the 2025-2026 budget was a watershed moment. The Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister-led government, in which I was Junior Minister of Finance, brought reforms of the century, the pension reforms and structural economic reforms. The two leaders tried to mend a broken social system. They dared to challenge the status quo. Think of Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Sir Sagar Ramgoolam. They all have one thing in common. People, generations, enjoy the benefits of their decisions for decades, for centuries. On a personal note, both their directions and guidance are forging my character, courage, and conviction. Working with the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister is a lifelong journey of learning. And like all the members of this government, I am deeply touched and inspired by a statement of the Prime Minister in a recent interview. I don't want anybody else to carry this burden, and I accept my fate of going through tough times again to build a bridge for the next generation. That's leadership. Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and members of the government, thank you for your support. I haven't finished. Madam Speaker, this is very important. I always finish with a call to action. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, allow me to make a call for national wisdom. In the words of Shri Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, who captures the spirit of responsibility and renewal so beautifully, quote, "The country has such a government today which is devoting every moment of the time and every rupee of the people's money for the balanced development of the country. For Sarvjan Hitaya, Sarvjan Sukhaya, a Sanskrit phrase meaning for the welfare of all, for the happiness of all. The pride of my government and my countrymen is connected to one thing, that our every decision, our every direction is linked to just one yardstick, that is, nation first. And nation first is going to produce far-reaching and positive results," unquote. Madam Speaker, we have made a tryst with destiny as one people, as one nation in peace, justice, and liberty. We are building the bridge to the future. Let's now make a pledge to build innovative Mauritius. With this, I commend the bill to the House. Long live our motherland. Thank you.
It seems to me it would be wise to suspend now, because nobody can do 40 minutes before 1 o'clock. So I suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.